Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's been a very long time since I shot any film, let alone black and white film. Like, I never shoot black and white, but I put in a roll earlier this year, Kodak 400 Tri-X, and I finally finished it. It took me a few months actually to finish off the roll. When I finally came to developing it, I realized that my developer, my black and white developer, Kodak HC110, it's been expired since 2021 September. I couldn't be bothered to buy a whole new bottle of developer because look, there's still, half left of it. I don't want to waste all of this. So I took my chances and used it anyway, despite the fact that it's 9 months out of date. Will the pictures come out all right? Will I completely ruin my photos? Let's find out. And the camera that I used was this Canon EOS 5. I've made, in the past I've made videos about this. If you want to check them out, you should just look for them. Just look for them on my channel, you'll find them. It's actually a fantastic camera. Like, just before I started developing it, I was like, is this a good idea? Am I going to completely ruin my photos? Are all the photos going to come out completely really underdeveloped? But I thought, screw it, let's just do it anyway. Just for some context, I shot this roll of 400 Tri-X at box speed. If your chemicals go out of date, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're completely unusable. You can still salvage the chemicals, you can still use it if you do certain things. It doesn't guarantee the results, but you can still give it a go. 9 months expired is that long. I'm not sure if that's a really long time or if it's not that long at all. But just to sort of be on the safe side, I did give it, I did develop the roll for longer than normal. So when you use this HC110, you're given different dilutions, and different dilutions give you different development times. I always go for the standard dilution B, which requires a 5-minute development time, but to compensate for that sort of loss of sensitivity that usually occurs from expired chemicals, I decided to add on about 2 minutes of development time. Completely arbitrary, completely sort of winging it. I just felt like 2 minutes would do the trick, and luckily it did. I got a good exposure, nice, dense, thick negatives. I still got a lot of detail in the highlights, in the midtones, in the shadows. My fear was that this is a 400 speed black and white film, which is already pretty gritty and grainy, which is already pretty contrasty. I was sort of worried that it might be too contrasty. When you develop with expired film or expired chemicals, it's sort of a huge lottery. You don't know what you're going to get, but luckily it didn't come out too contrasty, it didn't come out too grainy. It was still grainy. It sort of almost looked like the chemicals weren't expired at all. So I think I sort of hit like a nice sweet spot really, with my added development time. Would I use this developer again in the future? If I use them yeah, probably. It seems like there's still a lot, it's still got a lot left in it. Hasn't lost too much of its sensitivity because, as I said before, as chemicals expire, as film expires, that's how it loses its sensitivity. So yeah, it still seems to be working pretty well. What else can I say? Just as a tip, as a general sort of best practice, we all know how important it is to store your film, correctly, in the dark, in somewhere cool, ideally in the fridge or freezer. Same thing goes for your chemicals. Unfortunately, I just don't have the space to keep my chemicals in a fridge or a freezer, so I do keep them somewhere in the dark, somewhere cool, somewhere that's out of direct sunlight, because sunlight and heat will degrade your chemicals faster. So I think since I keep it somewhere cool and dark, that's how I've managed to keep its sort of sensitivity and keep it working for so long past its sell-by date, essentially. If you do think about using expired chemicals to develop at home, do so at your own risk. The results are not guaranteed. I am clearly lucky to have, I'm very lucky that my chemicals are still good to go and still usable, at least for the foreseeable future. As the chemicals get older, as the film gets older, they sort of exponentially lose their sensitivity over time. So it's probably best that I use this as fast as possible. If you do decide to sort of take that risk and use expired chemicals, then bear in mind, then you should consider, giving it more development time, or use a more concentrated dilution than you would normally. That's also something I did. I did use a slightly more concentrated development solution than usual. I think I added, instead of 31 milliliters for 1 liter to make 1 liter of development solution, I think I added maybe 50 milliliters to make a whole liter of solution. The more expired it is, the more development time, or the stronger the development solution you should make. And just cross your fingers that you get a good exposure and a nice dense film negative to work with. I hope that was helpful, and as always, follow me on Instagram at Zain, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Keep learning, keep shooting. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.